I've now had this G288 clone for about 18 months, so I thought I'd go through some of the experience of owning it. In case anyone else is thinking of buying something like this, I'll give you a rundown of what it's been like. I bought this because I wanted a 288. The original 288s weren't all that popular here in Australia, so they don't really come up for sale second hand very often. And when they do, the price is usually pretty high. Then one day, looking on eBay, selling one of these new, come assembled in an auction, $360 including post. So I thought, why not? We'll take the gamble for that money. When it first arrived, like most people, had a few issues with it. There was three problems. The fuel tank cap didn't seal, the oil pump didn't work, and when I had it running, trying to sort out the oil pump issue, the chain tensioner never had the clip, so it just vibrated off and I lost the chain tensioner. I sent a message through eBay to the people selling them, told them I had some issues, explained what it was. They went back and forth on a couple of things. About 2 weeks later I had the parts, so they gave all the parts under warranty, which surprised me. While waiting for the parts to arrive, I pulled the cylinder off, just cleaned out the ports. I opened up the transfers, the lower transfers quite a bit, just cleaned up the inlet exhaust and the upper transfers. Didn't really port it, just cleaned it up. Once I had all the parts, I went out and it got its first run. Like you do, I used some common sense. I put a 24-inch 404 bar on it, strapped it in a mill and went milling with it. Because if you're going to break it in, why not just go all out? Did some milling, did a bit of cross-cut work. It was down on power. Discovered about 5 tanks in what the problem was. The plastic throttle lever on the 288 that pushes down onto the carburetor to open the throttle had just some dags on the side of it, and it was only opening the throttle about halfway. Took about 5 minutes for the file just to clean that up, and it come good. So then I ran it for a couple of weeks, just doing bits and pieces here and there. Probably ran through about 15-ish tanks through it. Power was okay, but it wasn't great. I wasn't completely happy with it, and that's where things went wrong. So I wasn't happy with the level of power it had. I took the cylinder off again, and this time I broke the piston ring as I was pulling it out. It was a stupid mistake by me, but when I was looking inside the cylinder, I noticed that some of the lining had started to flake. I don't think it would have killed it. It probably would have run for quite a lot longer, like another 50, 60 tanks, but I was a bit bummed about that, and my stupidity meant that I was back looking for a piston ring. When I was looking for another piston ring, I noticed I could buy a Meteor top end, so a cylinder, piston, and the cable ring for about just under $200. And hummed and hawed a bit about it and thought, hell, why not? So yeah, I bought that, and that's where things made a turn for the better, really. The other thing that I needed to change at that time, it would run, but the tuning was a long way out. You needed the low screw out two and a bit turns. The high was similar. Something wasn't quite right in the carb. I decided to purchase a genuine Tillerson kit for the carb. It was 17 bucks. I thought I could just pull it down, have a look inside, and just replace the metering arm, the needle, and the diaphragms with the genuine ones, just to see if I could clean it up a bit. Did all of that, and things got a lot better. So that's a good start. The cylinder arrived, just gave it a bit of a quick clean up in the piston. It was much, much better than the original Farmertec Holtzform or whatever you want to call it. cylinder that was on there. Good coating, good porting. The timing numbers were all much closer to what it should be. So after that, it all went back together and I put it into use. It's been very good ever since. This thing's become a bit of a favourite of mine to run. Husqvarna, I think, says these things are meant to weigh about 7.6 kilos. This one, without the big front anti-vibe springs, about 7.8, 7.9. So it is a little bit heavier than what it should be. Reliability-wise, after I went through all of that, it's been great. I haven't spent another cent on it. I haven't done anything to it. Nothing's broken. Everything works like it should. Can't complain there. Power-wise, Husqvarna rates these at 4.5 kilowatts, which is about 6 horsepower. The closest thing I have to compare it to is my Dolmar 7900. I think that Dolmar can hold a higher chain speed in the cut. This thing's more resilient to being lugged. It's pretty well suited to running 404 chains, just due to it's happy running about 500 to 1000 RPM lower and just pulling along. A lot of torque, it's been reasonably good for milling, not brilliant but not terrible. I generally run it with pretty short bars on it and it's fine. With the 16-inch bar that I run on it a lot, I run that with an 8.2 sprocket and it's good. It holds a lot of chain speed. It resists being pulled down. It runs a 24-inch 404 setup. Does that really well. Can't complain with that. It has run a 28 on it for a bit. I've never tried it with the 36. I think it would do it okay, but it's not a great saw for that. One thing that has surprised me about this saw is how much I like the ergonomics of it. The front and rear handle placement and angles is really comfortable for me to use. The only thing I don't really like is the high top air filter. I find when I'm starting to lean it over to cut the other side of the tree, a lot of the time my arm ends up sitting on top of it. It's not a big issue, just slightly annoying. I generally try and reposition a bit to the side to deal with that. Very surprisingly, I have never had an issue with the pull start. Everyone else I've seen has broken a recoil rope or the actual mechanism. This thing has been fine. I don't understand why, but it's been working well. Now that I've said that, I'm sure I'll break it. But all in all, if I had to do it again, I would do it. Price-wise, by the time I put everything on it, the other cylinder, piston, the carb kit, it's still cheaper than what most of the 288s go for used here, and you never know the condition that you're going to get it in. So it's been a pretty good option. I don't know if I will buy any more of these clone saws because there's nothing else really that interests me that they're making. But yeah, these are a great opportunity if there's a saw that you've always wanted, but you can't really get a genuine one, or you can't justify the price of a genuine one, then they're a good option. There'd be a great option for someone who just needs a big saw to do a couple of one-off jobs every now and again. If you're only running a tank or two of fuel through a year, yeah, it'd be fine. It would last years. Even with that original cylinder, with the issue with it starting to flake, I think it would have run probably 50 or 60 tanks of fuel without an issue. It probably would have run a lot longer than that. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it so far. I'm going to keep running it and see what happens. It's been pretty damn good to me. I'm sure something else will fail at some stage, but so far so good. One of the strangest things on it too, if you need a laugh, it reckons it's got Euro 5 emission standards. Don't believe that. But yeah, it's been pretty good. All in all, I can't complain.